Does anybody have any questions for me?
So I have 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm struggling to find the third one, which was just a yes/no question.
Okay.
Whatever the third one was.
Well, it'll come to you while we're talking.
Hopefully will. 2 things. What does your Lyme victory actually look like? So you were talking about all the things that you lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so curious
Yeah.
about what came back to you that you had lost. And then the other half of that particular question is, do you have to take supplements, and what kind of self-care do you continue to do to maybe help replenish maybe what was left?
Good question.
So that's the first one. And the second one that I have.
Okay, let's just go with that because I'm like, So yeah, let's just go with that. Well, so I'll come to the third one when I'm done. Okay. So your first question was, what did I get back? So obviously Lyme took some things from me that I didn't get back. And those were mostly things with my kids. And those were the things that I couldn't do. I do not miss out on their lives anymore. And that is something that Lyme took from me. It took important moments of my children away, and those were the most painful things. I gained back everything physically. I gained my voice back. I'm singing again. I just sang in a huge choir in St. Cloud that was a big food fundraising, or not fundraising, but a food drive for Thanksgiving. And it was the most amazing experience. I'm still like on a high from it. I was screeching out those high notes with the sopranos, and it was amazing. I had goosebumps from my head to my toe. And that was, like I said, a tough loss. When I lost my ability to sing, that was a huge part of who I was. I do not drag a leg anymore. I do not have the connection with my mind and my hand anymore. I don't have pain anymore. Physically, I am who I was before my disease. So physically, I gained everything back. As far as supplements that I take, I do still take a probiotic. Because I did get an infection in my stomach in the very last week of my treatment. So I do still take a probiotic twice a week. I also take magnesium because I was on Levaquin for a long time, and Levaquin destroyed some of my tendons. And so I don't really have pain or anything from that, but what it affected is my body's ability to make its own magnesium. So I do take a magnesium supplement, but that is all. I do not do anything to maintain any kind of treatment. And I do not do any kind of protocol. So I'm good. Yeah. Your third one, did you remember it?
Well, I still can't remember the yes, no, so that, even though there are 2 parts, that was the first one. The second one is about how you deal now with what you lost with your kids.
That is a really good question. And people have a really hard time with that. That's something else that I've learned that I just talked about. There is a grief that comes with that. And I'll tell you a little story that kind of will answer this question. So my kids are all in sports, and I was an athlete, and so that's our thing. We do that together. And I was outside after my treatment, and they were playing baseball. My kids' baseball season was starting. They wanted to play ball, and I was like, yeah, I'll play ball with you. And there were my 3 older boys. And so I was like pitching for him. That was what I would always do, is pitch for him. And I was like, all right, it's my turn. It's my turn, I'm going to hit. And they were like, Mom doesn't hit the ball. And so I was like, I'm hitting. And so, there's a little bit they were razzing me a little bit. And I got up there and I swung and I missed. And the second pitch I hit, and it went way over their heads. And my kids were like they literally, their mouths dropped open. And my son, who was on third, was like, run, Mom! And I'm like, okay, that kicked us all into motion. But I thought about that later that night. It was just a hysterically fun time. I was just so fun. And I was thinking about it later that night, and I'll get emotional, but I was so sad that my 2 older boys, who were 9 and 7, had never seen me play ball before. They'd never seen me hit a ball before. And that made me really sad. But then I remembered the looks on their faces, and I thought, I will never miss another ball game with my kids, ever. I will never miss again, and I haven't. I've been at every yard game, I've been at every ball game, and I'm sad for the things that I missed out on, but it's made me live my life differently. And I do not say no when they want to go fishing. And I do not say no when they want me to tromp along the riverbanks with them. I don't. I go because I know what it's like to not be able to go. And I just try not to waste too much time grieving over what I've lost. And I just have become extremely grateful for what I have. Because not everybody is going to have that, and I do. So that's how I deal with it.
You talked about being outdoors.
Yes.
Have you developed a phobia for?
Okay, I have another story for you now. So, and honestly, you guys, I did not, by the way, I did not know when I got bit by a tick. My doctor asked me that. He's like, do you remember getting sick? I said, am from Minnesota. I've had a million ticks, literally. Like, I'm out in the woods all the time. I grew up out in the long grass and braids down my back. I never, ever remember being bitten by a tick and being sick, just so you all know that. I didn't get the classic bullseye rash. I didn't get, I did get bitten by a spider 4 weeks before I got sick, and I did have a really big rash and a reaction from that. And my doctor said that is a possibility that I could have gotten Lyme from a spider bite, but he said that isn't proven. But so to answer your question, yes. Yes and no. I am just the kind of person that refuses to be fearful. I mean, I could be very fearful, obviously, after what I've been through and what I do now. What it has made me be is very vigilant in checking. We check all the time because we are outside all the time. I refuse to install fear into my children, and I refuse to be fearful myself. I do not let Lyme control me for a second because it controlled me for a long time, and I'm not going to let it take away my love of the outdoors. I won't. But to answer your question, so we do check. We check before we go, we check when we get back, we check before we go to bed to make sure that we don't miss it. And my kids are really good at it. Even if they're friends, they'll be like, oh, so-and-so had a tick on him today. I'm like, was it a deer tick? They're like, no, it was a tick. So they can identify the ticks. My kids can. I am a big believer in empowering people with knowledge and not fear. And so that is what I do. However, I was deer hunting 3 years ago, and we were out hunting. One of my husband or my son, he's already laughing. My husband had gotten a big deer, and so we were all taking pictures of it, blah, blah, blah. When we're out deer hunting, sometimes we do, in November, find ticks on deers all the time, on ticks on deer. So anyways, we had already gotten home. We were sitting in front of the fireplace. I was sitting in front of the fireplace getting warm, and we were having family prayer before we went to bed at night. And my husband, I think, was saying the prayer, and I was sitting there, and I went like this, and I felt a tick on my hairline, and I'm telling you, I jerked that thing out, like the worst thing you can do. I whoa! I jerked it out, and I looked at it. I went running into my bedroom, and I'm telling you, I've never stripped in front of a mirror so fast in my whole life. I am whipping my clothes off, and I'm looking. So I won't tell you that the thought of it doesn't frighten me, because it does, but I do not let it control me. I just check, and I always say, and my doctor said this to me, because I said, what about my kids? What about this? And he said, you are smarter now. You know better now, and you will not get Lyme like you did before. If you get bitten or if you become sick after being outside, you know what to do, and you know what to do for your kids. And that is powerful, and I just remind myself of that all the time. If that is true, I know better. I know better. So I just refuse to let it take another second of my life for me. So.
How many trips did you guys take to California?
Oh, we went every 3 months for 2 years, right? Yeah, roughly every 3. I think when I was having a little extra trouble, we actually went after 8 weeks, didn't we? And then at the end, it stretched out a little bit, I think. Yeah, pretty close. And I had phone appointments with him every month. And then if I was having any sort of trouble, I talked to him. I mean, he was very vigilant in my care. I never, ever felt like I was being neglected. I never felt like, you know what I'm saying? He was very good at, if I was having any kind of issue, he was really good.
Was he an integrated? I mean, he probably didn't take insurance either.
No, he did not. But we were lucky. I'm sorry, what?
Can you repeat the question? I said he didn't take insurance.
She asked about insurance, if he took insurance. He did not take insurance, but we, for whatever reason, were very lucky. And we had Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they covered a lot of my antibiotics. They did not cover my IVs, but they did cover a lot of my oral medicines, and they did cover my injections, which I don't know how we got away with that, but we totally did. Not many people get away with that anymore. But we did. I don't know how. If they ever don't tell them, they'll probably come back at us for it. But did you have your hand up?
Yes. Do you remember when you moment you thought, okay, I'm cured? Do you remember that moment?
You
Or
know,
was it just something that came about over, over a period of time?
it was
Because you say you're cured,
right.
and
I think, like I said, at first I was skeptical. I wasn't skeptical, but I was just worried. And then it went, a week, and then it went a couple weeks, and then it went a month. And I think at a year, I was like, I'm better. This isn't coming back. And now I had a year of just recovery. And I think people need, that's an important part too, is people do a lot of crazy stuff for treatment. And your body gets really beat up. You're not only beat up from treatment, but you're beat up from the disease. And you really need to take a time just to heal your body. It took me a long time to heal my gut after that, a long time. In fact, I think a good year and a half before my gut was good and normal. I think, and this is an interesting question, so I just had major hip surgery. I have something called hip dysplasia, and they just did a corrective surgery on me where they broke my hip 4 times and rotated my pelvis. It was the worst surgery and the worst pain, even after going through Lyme, that I've ever been in. The worst trauma to my body that I've definitely ever had since Lyme. And the thought of, because I have a lot of people that say, well, you're just in remission. I'm like, I don't think I'm cured. I don't think I'm in remission. And I have said to a couple of those people since then, if anything would have brought my Lyme out of remission, it was this surgery, and it did not. So it's kind of funny that you asked that, because I feel like I'm still proving that to people. I feel like I still have to prove that to people. As far as myself goes, I distinctly remember that feeling of freedom just coming a little bit at a time, feeling like I did it, we're done, I'm never going back to that. And it was little steps that came a little bit at a time.
you don't plan for, like I still go, okay, I can't go to the club and walk today because I've got to groom 8 dogs and then I want to go to class tonight. I won't be able, my body can't handle that much. I'm going to pay the price for the next 2 or 3 days.
Are you still actively sick with Lyme, or do you think you're better?
I'm off of antibiotics, but I still do all the
Good for you.
supplements.
Okay, good, well,
And
good.
I've been off antibiotics for about a year. But
Good
I
for you.
went a year and a
That's
half.
wonderful.
It is. I went a year and a half undiagnosed and 10 years without proper treatment. And the thing that took me to the doctor to begin with was, I know when I got bit, I was in Pennsylvania, and that I had to have gotten bit there. And what took me to the doctor was my feet hurt before they even hit the ground in the
Yes,
morning.
I know that feeling.
And my feet still do hurt,
Oh, they do.
you know.
Were you
And
treated
I
for
don't know-
Bartonella?
We are now starting
Yeah,
to do the Bartonella
definitely hit
stuff
Bartonella.
because he thinks I have Bartonella, because it's not the bottoms of my feet, it's the tops of my feet that hurt.
Yeah. Okay, we have to wrap up. Anybody else have a burning question they can't live without having answered?
This is the yes, no.
Okay.
Books here tonight?
I do have books here tonight. Yes. Yes.
You were talking about your GP that said you didn't have Lyme disease, so you did. I'm sure all of us are in the same predicament. How do you reference your friend, who everybody knows in the community that you think is a dope? How do you deal with that?
Can you rephrase the question? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not understanding. So the doc, just ask me again.
Yeah,
The primary.
your
Oh.
primary doctor said you didn't have Lyme.
Yeah.
You did. Okay, someone says, well, how you doing, Joe? And I said, well, okay, but no thanks to so-and-so.
Right. Well, you know what? That's such a negative thing. And I just tell people this, because those doctors are everywhere. And no offense to any doctors, I'm losing my speaker again. I don't want to get sued by anybody. I really don't want to get sued. So, but I will say this, you just can't waste your time on that. Like, seriously, you can't. If I argued with every doctor who didn't believe in Lyme disease, I would lose my mind. You just, unfortunately, it's important to talk to them and say, hey, I have this diagnosis and this is what I have. If you have the time, you should look into it. And don't argue with them. Like, seriously, don't waste the time, because you most likely won't change their mind. Somewhere along the way, their mind might get changed, and they might remember you saying, hey, I have Lyme, check into this. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy, he did have these symptoms, and oh yeah, maybe this guy did have Lyme disease. Do that, because honestly, fighting with doctors who don't believe you or don't believe that Lyme exists, it's an incredible waste of time. Do what you can to educate them and move on. Really, honestly, find the doctors that do believe you, find the doctors that do support you, and stick with them. That's what you need that. But I hear you, and I get that. It is a frustration.
One thing I noticed in my diagnosis was the CDC said you had to have 5 bands for it to be positive. And then it changed partway through there, and now they say that that's only for surveillance only. And so I had 3 different tests where they had, under the 5. And so I called the CDC and I says, what does this mean? Can I have one band? I want a specific answer. Can I have one band of Lyme's and of the antibodies or whatever it is, and have Lyme's? And they said yes. So a lot of doctors read it, it's negative,
It is frustrating, and that is what happened to me too. And unfortunately, I mean, there's people out there, and God bless them, that are after the CDC to change things, and we really all have to just decide where our energies need to go. Are you being treated?
I am, and I just did a test that came out negative.
Yeah.
Negative, but I'm
And
positive
my
for something,
IGenics.
and they don't know what it is now, so it's been over 2 years of antibiotics.
Over 2 years, and are you better though?
Oh,
Yeah, but you're not to your 100% self.
yeah. Oh,
No. What symptoms do you have left?
my memory,
Who are you seeing for doctor?
my doctor is Dr. Paquette in Alpha Family Clinic. He's really nice. He's,
Totally unaware of it too, but has been going through the journey with us. But he gets so frustrated because everybody he sends him to the same thing like you.
Okay, so I know I'm getting late here. I can feel her like going, eh. So I'm gonna say this. Even the best doctors, even if you love them,
oh, I do.
even if you love them, but if they are not Lyme trained, even if they have the best of intentions, they can still do more harm than good. And if you've been treating for 2 years and you're not significantly better, then you need to look at a different doctor. And I'm not insulting him. Again, please don't sue me. I'm just saying that is one of the reasons you need to see an ILADS trained doctor. Because some medicines treat Lyme, some treat Bartonella, some treat Babesia. They don't all cover those co-infections. You might have other issues going on with mold. You might have issues going on with, your thyroid, whatever. I mean, but a Lyme doctor knows how to treat co-infections in Lyme. And a good doctor, even if he's a really good doctor, but if he's not ILADS trained, he can hurt you more than he can help you. And I'm sorry, but that is.
Just as a caveat to that, because whenever we hear somebody wants to help people with
Yes,
Lyme,
that's wonderful.
The MLA does provide scholarships for those doctors to go get ILADS training and
Yes.
to do preceptorships.
Yes.
So if he's ever interested, please contact the Minnesota Lyme Association.
And you can copy off that information from our website and give it to him if he's interested in that. But in the meantime,
He's been taking a lot of training. He went with the
Yeah.
other doctor, that Maloney.
oh yeah,
Oh,
so he's done some training then.
CMEs,
Yeah,
which are free on the internet.
yeah, they are free.
Yeah, she actually came out and gave him training.
That's wonderful.
And,
So he's willing to learn.
gone to a couple other things about it.
That's good.
It makes me
Feel better?
positive that
Yes.
he's absolutely, he's trying his
Yeah.
absolute best.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm not disking him at all because I don't even know him. But I'm just saying, you do have to learn how to advocate for yourself. You just have to. And if it's been 2 years and you're not happy with really how you're feeling, there might be some adjustments you make. They might not be hitting a co or something like that. So
All right, well,
Right.
thank you everyone for coming tonight. We will see everyone in January. We are looking for a volunteer to help us with our materials. It would be bringing some materials into our meeting and putting up the signs and posting some signs on the hallway. And we really need some help with that. So if you have any inclination to help other Lyme people, we would really appreciate that. Just let us know. Thank you.
being involved, you guys, in stuff like that is empowering. It really
Yes.
is. We do it because it makes us feel like we're kicking back really hard.
Yep.
And so getting involved is one of the best things you can do. And Minnesota Lyme is a great place to get involved. So
It is.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.